Okay. All right. Our purpose today is to share and receive feedback on draft rules, concepts, and language that we are developing to implement engrossed Senate Bill 5206 related to cannabis advertising. Some awareness about our meeting today and expectations. LCB is recording this meeting today, and as a public record, this recording is subject to public disclosure. While in the Teams chat feature will be on today, any written questions submitted in chat will be saved in the rulemaking file and are subject to public disclosure. Questions and comments in the session's team chat may not be responded to in real time today, but will be addressed at the end of the session or later, time permitting. In order to encourage participation today, we have we'll have the ability to have interaction here in the meeting. So participants in the meeting will be muted and will only be unmuted when the when we enable a microphone to allow someone to come online. To ask questions during the sessions, please use the raise hand function, and then you'll have an opportunity to be unmuted and to speak. If you'd like to submit questions before, during, or after the engagement session, feel free to email the rules team at our rules inbox at rules@lcb.wa.gov. So for today's agenda, should be fairly straightforward. We'll have a short review of the legislation, which is engrossed Senate Bill 5206 concerning cannabis advertising. We will take time to review the draft language that we are working on to implement the requirements of this bill, which amends 695396. I think that's the right one, but we'll see it on the next slide. So we'll go through the rule language we've been developing piece by piece, and then talk about next steps for what the next steps in this process are. We'll be filing a CR 102 and CR 103 later this year. And then we'll have a time for any other questions or comments. So right now I'd like to pause and well, we don't really have a reason to pause here, so I'll continue on, get into the review of the draft language. Okay, excuse me just for a moment. Oh, that's better. Okay, so the reason we're all here today is to consider engrossed substitute Senate Bill 5206 and how it will be implemented into WAC section 314.55.115, which is LCB's rule. So 6 was passed by the Washington State Legislature during the 2025 legislative session. It amends existing law in RCW 6950.369 regarding cannabis advertising. This new law went into effect on January 1st. So the law is in effect. The rules are now, we're catching up to implement the law into these rules. A CR 101 for this WAC section 314.55.155 was filed on August 31st, 2022 as WSR 2218.057 to provide notice of plans to do rulemaking on this section. So this rule actually has been opened, and we had contemplated rulemaking on it, but due to other competing priorities, we haven't moved ahead with rule development until now. And coincidentally, it's to also to implement 5206. So for summary of changes in 5206, the first one is 5206 increases from 2 to 4 the number of exterior advertising signs allowed. There's a typo on the exterior entrance side of a cannabis retailer's licensed building. So it increases the number from 2 to 4. 5206 limits the size of these advertising signs to be no larger than 1,600 square inches, and the signs must be affixed to the side of the licensed building on the side with the main entrance, or they must be displayed in the window, or they could be displayed in the window on the side with the main entrance. Uh, 5206 exempts signs that are less than 512 square inches from being considered as advertising signs if they do not include brand names, trade names, or images of cannabis products, and if they indicate general information such as hours of operation and so forth. 5206 allows licensed retail cannabis businesses to use up to 2 trade name signs, and trade name signs must comply with local authority related to the size of the signs for the city, town, or county where the licensed cannabis retailer is located. And one of these signs may be a double-sided sign. 5206 restricts all cannabis signage, advertising, and billboard content from portraying alcohol, nicotine, or tobacco use, or any associations with motor vehicles. 5206 also restricts cannabis advertising from any business licensed by the LCB under chapters 70, 345, 8224, and 8226 RCW sections that deal with tobacco and vapor. (5206) also requires any advertisement for a cannabis business or for cannabis, except for trade name signs, to contain text indicating that only persons 21 years of age or older may purchase or possess cannabis products. Um, 5206 restricts cannabis retailers from advertising, offering for sale, or selling cannabis at less than acquisition cost, except for medical cannabis products. 5206 exempts adopt-a-highway signs installed by the Washington State Department of Transportation from consideration as advertising for the cannabis business or licensee. And 5206 updates definitions in the law for the terms billboard, commercial mascot, trade name, and transit advertisement as they are used in RCW 6950-369. Okay, so we'll move right into draft language that we have been working on to implement 5206. The first section, I know we just mentioned definitions. The first section is draft amendments or restructuring of the section to to have a definition section. So we've updated these definitions here, and I can just continue to run through them. I think that might be the easiest way. So 314 55 155 subsection 1 is definitions. First, subsection 1 is says for the purposes of the section, the following definitions apply. And there's a definition of adult only facility, which I think replaces the terminology where it's used the term youth before. So there's a new definition for adult only facility, and a definition here also on this slide for billboard, meaning a permanent off-premises sign in a fixed location used for the display of commercial messages. So I'll pause here just for a moment. Okay. Move on to the next definitions. And I will say, I think I mentioned it, but these are not the same definitions that are amended in the RCW because the definitions align between the WAC and the RCW. So changing the ones in the RCW didn't directly change the ones in our WAC, but because the section is restructured, we're updating these. So I'll move on to the next definitions.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
There is someone with their hand raised. Did you want to have questions now, or do you want to wait for questions later?
Sure, I'd be happy to take a break and take a question. Okay, go ahead.
Eric, I am unmuting you. And you should be able to unmute yourself, Eric.
Hi, Eric, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for taking the time to walk us through this so thoroughly this morning. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I'm an owner of Evergreen Market, a retailer, and had a question with regard to the definition of off-premise. I don't know if there's an intent to describe that a little bit more definitively or not, but we've had some ambiguity with regard to whether like a pillar sign in one of our shopping complexes, which is quite a distance from the building that we lease, would be considered off-premise or on-premise. And it would be helpful to just have some clarity for the enforcement officers, I think, as well, to know what you mean by that.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for sharing that right now. I think can we hold on to that and maybe address it towards the end of the time? But yeah,
Of course.
yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead then. Okay. So going to the next definition. Okay. Yeah, here we are. Off-premises sign means a sign relating through its message and content to a business, activity, product, or service available at a premises other than the location where the sign is erected. So that's that addresses your question here. We have a draft definition for that, and we can address it again in our question and answer time. Okay, and another definition for trade name sign in WAC. Our draft definition is trade name sign means a sign other than a billboard, which includes only the business trade name as it appears on the approved cannabis retailer license issued by the board. I'll pause here just for a second. Okay, move on to subsection 2, which addresses advertising generally in WAC 314-55-155. So the changes, the proposed changes to these rules are showing the new or proposed new language as underlined. So as you read this and look at it, just keep that in mind. So this subsection 2A deals with the general requirements for advertising and adds the following things that should not be included in advertising. Anything that portrays alcohol or its use, portrays nicotine or tobacco use, portrays any association with motor vehicles, or mimics or resembles official logos or messaging from state agencies. So I'll pause there just for a few seconds. Okay. And subsection 2 has items 5 or 6 and 7 also. The advertising should not contain anything that represents that the use of cannabis has curative or therapeutic effects. That's just a grammatical correction. And 7, that it depicts a child or other person under legal age consuming cannabis. So it's just a edit to the existing text there. Go on to the next. Subsection 2A or 2C has changes to say that all advertising for cannabis businesses or cannabis products, regardless of what medium is used, except for trade name signs, must contain text that is at least 10% of the largest type used in the advertisement, stating that cannabis products may be purchased or possessed only by persons 21 years of age or over. The 10% standard is borrowed from another rule regarding signage, and so we feel that that's a way to implement the requirement for the age requirement, so that the text is still visible on the sign. So I'll pause here for a second. Okay. 314.55 2E. We have draft language that says any cannabis related advertising in any business licensed by the board under Title 66 RCW or Chapter 7345, 8224, or 8226 RCW is prohibited, and that's regarding the businesses that are licensed for tobacco or vapor. So that's pretty straightforward, and that carries over from the RCW. Okay, subsection 3 says, except for the use of trade name signs and billboards as authorized under RCW 6950-369 and as provided in this section, licensed cannabis retailers may not display any cannabis-related advertising signage on the licensed premises other than 4 separate signs not exceeding 1,600 square inches each that are affixed to the building or hanging in the window of the licensed location on the side of the building with the main entrance. I'll pause here for a moment. This carries over the increase in signs from 2 to 4 from the bill. Okay, I'll move ahead. Okay, we have draft language regarding the signs that are visible through the window of a licensed retailer. So I'll just go ahead and read it. That's subsection 3AI. Any advertising signs that are clearly visible to the public from the public right-of-way, whether on the building or through a window of the building, and displayed in such a manner as to be viewed fully from outside the licensed premises, will be considered advertising for the purpose of this section. And capital A, for the purposes of this section, an advertisement or merchandising inside a cannabis retailer location that is not placed on the inside surface of a window facing outward and that are clearly visible from the public right-of-way shall not be considered outdoor advertising. And then B, for the purposes of this section, clearly visible means capable of being read without obstruction by a person standing or traveling on a public right-of-way. And I'll pause there just for a second. I need to get a glass of water, so I will be right back. Okay, I'll move ahead.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
Yes.
Are you able to go back to the previous slide? There was a question that just came into the chat.
Sure. Okay. Let me see
And
here.
so they are asking if you can clarify whether the clause of being on the entrance side pertains to all advertising signs or only those handing in, excuse me, in the window.
It pertains to all 4 signs as the bill reads. All 4 signs must be on the entrance, the side of the building with the main entrance. I believe that's the wording of the RCW.
All right, thank you.
Okay, clearly visible. Yes. Okay. We'll move on here. Okay. So the next II, we'll start there. All text on outdoor signs, including trade name and we should add signs here. Okay. Trade name signs and billboards is limited to text that identifies the retail outlet by the licensee's business or trade name, states the location of the business, and identifies the type or nature of the business. And then 3, no outdoor advertising signs, including billboards and trade name signs, may contain depictions of cannabis plants or cannabis products. And 4, outdoor signs that contain logos or artwork that does not depict cannabis plants or cannabis products as defined in this section are permissible. So
All right, you have a question.
Oh, okay.
All right, Alexis, you should be able to unmute.
Sure, Alexis, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I have a question about subsection 4. So I noticed that there are several, so like for example, in section 2 and 3, trade name sign is explicitly no on the side page you are at.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, different one. Yes, here.
4.
So
Okay, that should be 4. It looks like
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
2 and 3 trade name sign are specifically indicated, but on 4 it's not. And so, and with the definition of trade name sign, is the intent that trade name signs not be able to include logos and artwork? Or is it just that this is sort of like, this just needs some clarification and trade name sign should be added to subsection 4 here?
Yeah, let me think about that. We can, yeah, I don't know if we can answer that question right now. I think it may be addressed I think this may be addressed in the rules coming up here. So let's hold on to that and then we'll see what we come across here. Okay, thanks, Alexis. Okay, outdoor signs that contain logos or artwork that does not depict cannabis plants or cannabis products as defined in this section are permissible. Okay. Okay. So go on here. Signs that are less than 512 square inches are not considered advertising for the purposes of this section if the sign does not include any brand names, trade names, or images of any cannabis product, and only indicates information including but not limited to the following. And there's hours of operation, whether the business is open or closed, the presence of an ATM machine, the word welcome for a welcome sign. Signs or required signs or notices, community notices, or other information that's not related to cannabis products or the cannabis business. So I'll pause there.
All right, Jeff, do we have another question?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, Vicky, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, Vicky, go ahead.
Sorry, it takes a minute sometimes when you give us the permission. It takes a second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just
Sure.
a really quick thing on this one.
Sure.
It's pretty common that like the hours of operations that are hanging on a door would have the name of the store at the top of that hours of operations. So I'm not sure if I guess I just want to put in a plug that I get no brand names or images or anything like that, but I don't think it would be a bad thing if it said store name, I'll open these hours. So I just want to put that plug in there that maybe
Okay.
trade names
Okay.
should be okay on these.
Okay, yeah, we'll make a note of that. Okay, thank you, Vicky. Okay. So to subsection 4. In addition to the 4 signs described in subsection 3A, licensed businesses may use billboards and up to 2 trade name signs as described in RCW 6950-369. All signs are required to be compliant with content restrictions pursuant to this section. A, size limitations for trade name signs and billboards is regulated and enforced by the city, town, county, or tribe in which the licensed business is located. And subsection B, trade name signs may only reflect the trade name of the licensed business and may not contain cannabis products or cannabis or product brand names. So go ahead here. Okay, the next change is that subsection 4C. One of the two trade name signs must be fixed to the building on the building of the licensed location on the side of the building with the main entrance. Okay. Subsection D, 4D. A second trade name sign may be a double-sided sign, such as a pylon sign or a monolith sign that contains identical content on each side. A double-sided sign that contains identical content on each side is considered one trade name sign. Subsection E, placement of a pylon or monolith sign, named sign or similar to this. I'm sorry, I didn't read that correctly. Placement of pylon or monolith trade name signs similar to the size of signs is subject to local zoning requirements and maybe the responsibility of the city, town, or tribe to regulate through local zoning ordinances. So I'll pause there. We've got a typo in that section, I believe. So I'll pause there. Okay. Now moving on to subsection 5. This is language that was intended for the original rulemaking project for WAC 314-55-155. And just as some background, I mentioned earlier, I believe that that rulemaking project on this section was set aside for a while. And now that we are implementing 5206, we have the opportunity to pick up those a couple of those items that we can roll into this rulemaking so that we take care of the both purposes under the same CR 101. So subsection 5 says promotional items such as giveaways, coupons, and distribution of branded or unbranded merchandise are banned except for limited circumstances. Giveaways that are incidental items such as matches may be provided free of charge so long as A, the incidental item qualifies as paraphernalia as described in RCW 6950-102, and B, the incidental item is not advertised by any means other than in-store merchandising as allowed in RCW 6950-369. Pause for a moment. Okay, and this continues to from B to C. C, the retailer must have purchased any incidental item provided to the customer at fair market value. D, any branding on the item must be only that of the licensed retailer and may not have any brand, logo, or images of product representing a producer or processor. E, the value of the incidental item must be less than $1 US. F, incidental items provided must not be subject or conditional to other purchases. G, for the purposes of this section, a giveaway does not include coupons or representative samples of products, edible products and topicals only carried by a licensed retailer that are not infused with cannabis and are offered to customers on a licensed cannabis retail premise sampling purposes only. I'll pause there. Excuse me.
You have a question in the chat that I'll just read out loud. What
Thank you.
happens if the local jurisdiction doesn't have any signage rules except that businesses must follow the state rules? Would it maybe just loop around and around with no restrictions?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly the local regulations come into effect there, and I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, but that's one we can save and for consideration here. Thank you.
I think we've got Justin on with his hand
Justin. Yeah, Justin, go ahead.
Yes, so to that question, please keep in mind that the local jurisdictions only are dealing with the size of the sign, not the content and the like. So if the local jurisdiction doesn't have any regulations on the trade name size, then there wouldn't be any necessarily any restrictions because the state is no longer regulating the size of those signs. So everything else, the content count and everything else still falls under the state oversight. But if the local jurisdictions opt not to create any ordinances around that, then there aren't any restrictions for that.
Thank you, Justin. Okay, I'll go on here. Move to subsection 6. Cannabis retail licensees holding a medical cannabis endorsement may donate or provide free of charge product to qualifying patients or designated providers who hold a valid recognition card. Retail licensees may only advertise quote free or quote donated cannabis concentrates, usable cannabis, or cannabis infused products identified by the department by DOH as compliant cannabis products in Chapter 24670 WAC and tested to the standards in Chapter 24670 WAC. So I'll pause there.
There's a couple more questions in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you, Tierney.
You're welcome. For the first one, I believe it was on the last slide for clarification under section 2AV.
2AB, okay. That's 5AB. 2AB's back there a ways, I think. Or
Oh, okay.
what is the question?
So under that section, it says portrays any association with a motor vehicle and mimics or resembles logos or messaging from the LCB or other state agencies. The question is it the board's intent that our brand, Highway 420, which uses a stylized highway/Y road sign motif, no cars or driving depictions, would be non-compliant?
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's something that we can look into. Certainly, I don't know I'm not familiar with the with the product, obviously. So that's a fair question. Thank you.
Okay, and there's a little bit more to that question, but since that's getting tabled, I'll move on to the next question, or it was the next suggestion, really. where someone said it would be good to change the $1 to $2. With inflation, stickers are getting expensive.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thanks for that question or that suggestion.
And then we're all caught up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tierney. Okay, back to 6. I think this is where we were at, right? 5. Yes, okay, we've covered 5. Okay, subsection 6. Cannabis retail licensees holding a medical cannabis endorsement may donate or provide free of charge product to qualifying patients or designated providers who hold a valid recognition card. Retail licensees may only advertise free or donated cannabis, concentrates, usable cannabis, or cannabis-infused products identified by the department as compliant cannabis product in Chapter 24670 WAC and tested to the standards in Chapter 24670 WAC. Okay. I think I read that one a second time, but that doesn't hurt. Okay, we'll move on. Oh, that's the extent of the changes for this session here. So, okay, I thought that there was one more. Okay, well, so I'd like to take some time now. Are there any others who want to raise their hand and ask questions, or is there anything that I passed over someone before we talk about the next steps here?
All right, we have a couple people raising their hands. So I'll
Okay,
start with
great.
Sean Dene.
Sure, great. Go ahead, Sean.
Sean, you should be able to unmute.
Hello, good morning. Thank you. I know that being able to sell non-paraphernalia merchandise like T-shirts and ashtrays and stuff like that is not allowed through RCW, but it sure would be nice if retail stores could sell branded merchandise. I think consumers would really like it, especially with the World Cup. What would be the appetite of the LCB to support an RCW change to allow stores to carry branded merchandise? Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll jump in there, Jeff.
Yeah, thank
so
you.
the agency typically doesn't come out in support of bills if it's not a part of the governor's budget and the like. And so if the governor's office is kind of not chiming in, we usually stay neutral on something. And so typically, and it doesn't mean that's 100% of the time, but typically we don't see the board come out and support or endorse a bill that's not already been identified and approved through our processes for the governor. So
would you
doesn't
guys
mean
see
that we
any
would oppose.
problem with that?
And I would I can't speak for the board yet because we haven't talked to them about this, but my sense is that we wouldn't necessarily oppose that. There could be some concern somewhere that somebody wants to identify. However, I don't foresee the board just being strictly opposed to that concept.
Great. Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
Thank you, Sean.
All right,
Okay,
next we're going to Yana and then Eric. So I'll queue them up. But Yana,
Okay.
you'll go first.
Go
Sorry
ahead,
if I'm saying
Yana.
your name wrong.
Go ahead.
Hi. My question was about art on a building. If it's already done and the new regulations goes in effect, do we gonna have to change it, or we're gonna be part of the grandfathered in?
Well, the rules only apply to the actual signs. Is it part of the building that's not a sign that is you're talking about?
It's already been done. Like, let's say it's signage already on the building, or art already being painted on the building, and it's been approved before.
Well, I don't think Yeah, that's a good question. It would depend on the uh, the the actual building itself, and that's outside of my area of expertise, but we can um, take your question and consider that. I don't think that the standards um, are would have changed so that they would um, restrict something because of the content. Because I think the bill pretty much preserves the the same standards that existed before. Sometimes it's been uh, um, updated, but I don't. But you know, I think that I'm not sure that there is a change that would make you um, have to alter your building in any way, because the spirit of the bill here is that it increases the number of signs, and I'm not sure that it would do anything that could restrict it unless perhaps, as the bill is written, I believe it describes all of the signs having to be on the side of the building with the main entrance. So there could be something there. So I can't answer your question, but that could be something for that your officer could evaluate, or your if you have an officer, an education specialist who can work with you on that. Yeah, thank you. And Justin, if you have any other thoughts on that, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about artwork, that would be basically subjective, and we would have to take a look, make sure it's not advertising falling under the provisions of the advertising or the trade name type of provision. So it's really going to be case specific when we look at that. But as Jeff was saying, this wasn't intended to create some of those types of restrictions. Obviously, there's some others areas of the statute that did create some more restrictions. But one of the things with the bill is there's no grandfathering in. So once the statute has been passed, and if it's been changed in statute, then compliance will need to be affected for this particular statute.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Okay. Thank you, Yana. Thank you. Do we have another one, Tierney?
Yep, we have Eric, and you are ready to unmute.
Great.
Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. I was just curious as to the rationale with regard to the 4 1,600 square inch signs, that they're limited to being placed just at the entrance of the business. I'm sure I'm not the only business owner that has a store with street frontage on more than one side, and just having a difficult time understanding why I can't have a sign on, 2 sides of my building instead of just one, if there's traffic and customers that would be helped by seeing that signage.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I don't have any insight into the background of the bill having that requirement for them to be on the same side as the entrance. There could be some other background or rationale there, but I'm not aware of it. Justin might have some knowledge if there was other thinking there.
Now, that wasn't one of the provisions that we had suggested. I will put a little pin and flag into one of the things that we are planning on revisiting in this particular draft. As we were reading through the initial bill the first time and second time, et cetera, we had crafted language about the trade name being on the front main entrance of the building side. That's actually not in the statute, and so we're going to modify that. But the advertising, the 1,600 square inch advertising signs are set up in statute for the front, and I think that there was some discussions with public health, if I understand right, that may have contributed to that change. But that's one of the things that we can't adjust at this point because it's statutorily driven.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks, Eric. Okay, is there another question, Tierney?
Yep. And Sarah, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hey, Sarah,
Great,
go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you so much. I was wondering if you could speak to the board, not taking up in this draft, looking at the more specific and abundant information we have around what young people, underage folks in Washington find appealing in logos, and why the board has not, with this increase of the amount of advertising that we'll have for commercial cannabis in Washington, has not addressed youth appeal, given our new understanding of youth appeal in the state.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting question, but I think it's outside the scope of this. Go ahead, Justin. Yeah.
I was going to say that. Thanks, Sarah. We don't necessarily disagree with that, but that's not part of what this bill did, and so that's really outside the scope of this rulemaking. I mean, we have some latitude in some areas, but that's a pretty big policy discussion that doesn't really fit into where these signs are placed.
Yeah, I think my follow-up question there is, certainly in the statute passed in 2025, I think it's hard to make the argument it's in scope, though it did seem to me in scope for the initial CR 101 that this is continuing. That initial scope seemed to include youth appeal as well. So that's what I'm asking the board to look at.
And were there specific suggestions that you had for us to consider?
There were. I submitted them as a
Okay.
written comment. I'll after, I really appreciate the chance to go through this draft with you all, and I'll be following up with comments there
Okay,
too.
that sounds good. Thanks for the previous written comments. I haven't seen your comments yet. Still catching up on some of the other stuff, so I'll be sure to take a look at those. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, who's next, Tierney?
Now we have questions from the chat.
Okay.
So they're a little bit wordy. Let me get back to where it was. Sorry. Let's see. Subsection 2A VI reads mimics, or resembles logos or messaging from the LCB, other state agencies. Oh, excuse me. We already answered that question.
Yeah.
Next question. Can you speak to the rule rationale behind the prohibition on providing free items over $1 in value? Specifically, what harm or risk the rule is intended to prevent, given that in other regulated industries, nominal promotional items are commonly used to build or brand loyalty and support long-term sustainable business practices?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the issue here is kind of what is the nominal amount, and I'm not sure the origin of the $1 thing, if that could be built in somewhere and I don't think it's in the statute, would be in the statute. Do you know the background of that, Justin?
Yeah, so this is basically a previous board interim policy
Okay.
that was enacted around some of the COVID period. And so we're just taking the opportunity to take that interim policy as we're supposed to move those into rule. And that's
Okay.
what this is about, is lifting and shifting that over into rule. And so there was some discussion when that was being created. And the giveaways that were under $1, we had to look at from a trade practice issue on what could be provided, and then also what the store could have to be able to provide to others when you're not able to have those other products in the store. So that's kind of the real nutshell version of that. But this is basically taking that previous policy and putting it verbatim into the rule.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Okay, so we have one last question, or it might be
Okay.
just a comment. So the
Okay.
bills changed from allowing two outdoor signs on any building side to 4, only on one side with the main entrance, may unintentionally reduce visibility for many retailers, particularly those in strip malls or locations where entrances face away from main roads and foot traffic. Flexibility to place compliant signage on any side of the building as previous rules, while staying consistent with size, content, state and local ordinance requirements and rules, would enhance visibility and fair business opportunity, not restrict it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, thank you for your comment on, at least, in this case, if there are businesses that have two, that, well, it would give them the opportunity to have 2 more signs, I guess. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Again,
Hey, Jeff.
go ahead.
Let me just jump in real quick. Totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But that type of a change would require a statutory change, because the statute is now very clear that where these signs have to be, and that's not within our discretionary purview to change. So if that's something of interest to folks, please contact your legislators to try to facilitate that change.
Yeah. It's as it's in the, like I was just going to say, I second what Justin says. Since it's was included in the bill, then that change would have to be changed in the law. So thank you. And are there any more, Tierney?
There are, but I just want to check in with Kevin real quick. Kevin, did you want to speak to what we just
Sure.
talked about?
Yeah, thanks, Tierney. I just wanted to jump in, kind of piggybacking on those comments. So Justin had mentioned when we reviewed the draft recently, it was brought to our attention that the draft rule contains a provision saying that trade name signs have to be affixed to the building, but that's not anywhere in statute. So we're going to revise that. It's under 4C in the draft. So based on that, it would appear to me that the statute would allow a trade name sign on any side of the building, but advertising signs have to be on the front of the building with the main entrance. So for folks with frontage in multiple locations, that might offer some relief there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, we have one person with their hand raised, which is Eric, so I'll go ahead and unmute him.
Okay, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I was just hoping somebody could direct me to the RCW that states that advertisements need to be on the entrance side of the building. I couldn't find that under 6950.
Oh, okay. 6950, 369.
Yeah, I didn't see it there.
It's recently updated. Are you looking online or?
Yeah, I mean, I may have missed an update, but
Okay, let me get I'll put the link in the chat here.
Yeah, I just dropped 5206 in there. And
Okay.
that's the bill language, and you'll see it in there. That's a change in this particular statute.
Got it. Terrific. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go back to. Okay. Okay. So we went through the changes that we had for this implementation. So let me get back to the.
Can we answer one more question that is
Sure.
in the
Okay.
chat?
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
no,
I
it's
was
fine.
trying to, I got distracted by trying to drive here. Okay. Go
Um,
ahead.
Since the restriction originated as a COVID-era emergency response under trade practice, can you clarify what evidence or outcomes the board is now relying on to support continuing or modifying that restriction through interim rulemaking?
Could you repeat that? I didn't quite follow that.
Oh, I think Justin's
go ahead,
got it.
Justin. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I
Justin.
was just going to say that when we're looking at anytime we come out with an interim policy, the intent is a placeholder until we can build that into rule. And so that's what this particular provision is doing. If there are comments on that, we'll be happy to take those comments. But this is just kind of that pick up and lift to the rule. that we're doing here. And this was just an opportunity to place that. So there wasn't really any other additional review. This is just trying to build in where we're supposed to be having this in rule.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Are there any others?
No one has their hand raised at this moment.
Okay.
And hey, Jeff, I just was rereading
Sure.
the comment. So let me back up on that. So it says to support continuing or modifying that restriction. So the continuation, basically what it was is the licensees at the time, the retail licensees wanted to be able to hand out protective face masks and hand sanitizer and the like. And so that's where that particular component came in to the allowances from the health and safety standpoint. But then we also had it, the original policy statement was dealing with things like matchbooks and those type of issues. So it kind of came about in two different times. We had the first one where we're talking about the nominal items, and that was like the matchbooks, etc. And then during COVID, we extended that for that hand sanitizer and the other safety type of equipment. So when the COVID regulations went away, those other pieces would not be eligible for the same thing unless they're the dollar or under.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Okay, any others, Tierney? I don't see anything, but okay.
There is one in the chat now. Will there be
Okay.
a grace period, a runoff period to bring existing compliant signage to the new rule set? This allows adequate time for obtaining signage and construction quotes, securing city permits, and accounting for weather-dependent work.
I'd say that question really depends on the circumstances. This, on the individual case, but like I mentioned before, this bill went into effect January 1st. So, you know, the changes that can come, say, putting up the additional signs, the moving from 2 signs to 4 signs, that kind of work can commence. But
So, hey, Jeff,
yeah, go ahead.
let me jump in because
Sure,
there's
sure.
not a grace period on the statute. So it did pass last year in the spring. People had a lot of time to come around to meet that January 1st date. And that was one of the reasons that there was a January 1st implementation date versus a July implementation date, which is the norm. And so if the statutory framework specifically has to be adhered to by January 1 of this year. If we're building in some other areas within the regulation that is not specific in the statute, then that's something that we can certainly consider and discuss. But all of the content that is required under the statute, the compliance is not extended to a further time period because there's been a time period built into the statutory provisions to allow for that type of a transition.
Thank you, Justin. Okay. So for next steps, so we've gotten lots of food for thought here today. So next steps for us are to continue to work on the draft and update the draft based on today's feedback. If there's to do, and there certainly will be some additional work to do before we move on to the CR 102 stage. So with this rulemaking, we are looking at likely filing the CR 102 at the board meeting on March 4th, 2026, which begins a formal comment period, and then that would give us a public hearing on a date we'll determine, which would be in April. And then that would put us on track for CR CR 103 filing to be determined, but maybe as soon as June, we'd be filing a CR 103 to make the changes to the WAC permanent. During the CR 102 comment period, we'll be accepting public comments all the way up until the date of the public hearing. That is all that I have to cover this implementation project today. You can always get a hold of us by visiting the LCB website. We have current and upcoming engagement opportunities posted on our website. There's a public engagement section. You can always contact us at rules@lcb.wa.gov. And there's more resources about rulemaking on our website. So if you go and click around and visit the policy and rules section, you'll have links to all of our rulemaking projects there. So unless I'll give everyone another opportunity, unless anyone has something else, that's all I have for today. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to be here and to go over our efforts to implement engrossed Senate Bill 5206. So that's all I have. So looks like we finished in about an hour and 15 minutes almost. So that's it. So unless anyone else has anything else, I'll bring this meeting to a close. So thank you again, everyone.